Let's look at the transfer portal class. Now, you're probably aware of this, currently ranked the number 6 transfer portal class in the country. Been that way for a while now. All right. The classes that are ahead of us, LSU. Ole Miss is always up there. Texas Tech, which kind of surprised me, but they're doing some things. Auburn and Florida State's trying to revamp a whole bunch of things. Nebraska at 6. It sticks out to me that we're ahead of Texas A&M, a school that spends a lot of money, won more games recently. All right. We're ahead of schools like Oregon, who has a ton of money and has definitely won more games recently. Miami's in there as well. We are the top transfer portal class in the Big Ten, ahead of Colorado. I don't know. It's interesting with Dion. It's got to be hard for him to recruit right now until he comes out and says, I am Colorado's head coach. He said it in the past, but he hasn't really addressed the Cowboy rumors or anything of that nature specifically. But you look at our offensive side of the ball. We have brought in a ton of skill guys. Dane Key. I've talked about this before. Kentucky's top wide receiver, a guy who could have entered the NFL draft, probably been a top 3-round pick right now. He's obviously trying to up his draft stock. All right. And for me, Dane Key's the most experienced receiver that we have. He's talented, 6'2", 190 pounds, and his average yards per catch was about 15 yards per reception. So he's a guy who can create separation on a team that couldn't create any separation a season ago. All right, you got any thoughts there on Mr. Key, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's a big addition. I mean, I think he is the big addition on this wide receiver unit. Just a couple touchdowns last year. Hopefully he can kind of fire back. But, I mean, he's got several seasons of being Kentucky's top wide receiver. And you just talk about a guy with, I'll just say, just a lot of pressure coming in here to live up to that hype. We saw kind of, Isaiah and Aaron Banks, again, have whatever type of success you would like to say. But hopefully Dane Key can kick it up an extra notch and maybe block on the perimeter as well.
Yeah, block on the perimeter. Let's just start with that. I think that's what frustrated me so much last year. Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks. I mean, these were two guys who were all conference type players previously. Nayor was at Texas, got hurt, but at Wyoming, all conference Mountain West. You had Jamal Banks. I think it was honorable mention or third team all ACC. They come here. They've got good size. We're not getting separation. We're not catching deep balls. And we're not even blocking, even though you're small tight ends out there going against 180-pound DBs. So to me, what that tells me is there was just a lack of buy-in on those guys. And again, it comes back to play calling and certain things that we've already addressed and hopefully are much better going forward under Holgorsen. But I do think that plays a part of it, a true freshman quarterback who actually played pretty well. But all other teams had to do was go man-to-man, lock us down, and then blitz us a ton because the offensive line struggled to consistently protect. We couldn't beat man-to-man. And they really weren't that worried about Dylan running. He had a couple of times he took off. It really wasn't that hard, especially the first 9-10 games of the year, to limit our offense. We need guys like Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter to come in and make other teams scared to play man-to-man. We really do. We need guys who can create separation down the field. And this is a guy who wants to raise his draft stock. You look at Kentucky, I think they won 4 games last year. They really struggled at the quarterback position. So I guarantee he's coming here looking at Raiola, looking at Holgorsen. We got a new wide receivers coach. And I guarantee he's trying to up his draft stock, obviously help Nebraska win games. Look at Isaiah Hunter. To me, he's kind of similar to Key, got a little bit more speed, in my humble opinion. He's a younger guy, 3 years of eligibility left. As a freshman, I've said this before, led Cal in 3 different receiving categories. That means you're clear-cut their best receiver. Sometimes you have a guy who leads in receptions or yards or touchdowns. No, he led in 3 different receiving categories. So we have Kentucky's former best receiver, Cal's former best receiver. I see these guys who you expect to come in and make an immediate impact. You look at Hardly Gilmore. Now, he was 17 a year ago. He was banged up, all right, didn't play a ton. But what's interesting is I know for a fact, had Jalen Lloyd still been here with Ja'Cory Barney, with Key, with Hunter, they still would have brought Gilmore in. That's how much they like him. He's a little bit smaller, 6'1", 165, got 3-4 years of eligibility left to play, 4-star coming out of high school. This is a guy that I have been told the coaches are as excited about. I don't want to say more, but as excited, possibly more than anybody else they brought in. Now, the immediate impact, we'll see, because he doesn't have the proven history just yet. He's still a young player, but the long-term ceiling for this guy is as high, possibly higher, than any receiver we brought in. And I think we brought in a lot of guys with a lot of talent. You got Ja'Cory Barney already on the roster. And you got other guys in that receiving room as well. So let me see here. Those are the 3 wide receivers we brought in. I didn't miss anybody when it came to wide receivers. Did I, Jake?
No, they were in on the Houston wide receiver, but he went to Texas A&M.
Yeah. Did I address that? Yes, I did. I addressed that. So he was going to walk on in January. This is a little bit more of a crowded receiver room than what A&M's got. They could give him a scholarship. He has better chance for early play time there at A&M. So he's going to Aggie land. So best of luck to him. You look at the 3 guys we brought in. You look at Ja'Cory Barney coming back. I mean, don't just dismiss anybody else in that room either. Play time has to be earned. You have an anticipation, but then you've also got to go out and earn it. I would look at the 2 receivers we brought in last year. Maybe they didn't earn it so much, but also we didn't have other guys that could push them consistently either, which now I feel like we have. There is a wide receiver room where we should have great competition for play time. It's hard not to give the wide receivers that we brought in like an A. I don't know how you don't give that an A. You look at some of the other guys we brought in on the offensive side of the ball. I'm actually going to go. All right. Marcos Davila. Did I say that correct, Jake?
I believe so.
So this was a 4-star coming out of high school, went to Purdue. He's a freshman, 6'3", 235, quarterback. He's now here. We have struggled with quarterback depth at Nebraska, oh my God, forever. Like our starting quarterback almost always gets banged up at some point. And I don't think Dylan Raiola missed a game last year, but he was banged up. The year before that, it's been a long time since we've had a quarterback who hasn't been banged up and missed time, and then we've struggled for depth. You look at our quarterback room now. You got an experienced starter coming back. You got Marcos Davila as a potential top backup. Jalen Gromstad as a potential top backup. The NAIA Player of the Year, 6th-year player, lots of experience. TJ Lateef, a talented freshman coming in. He started practicing with the team during the bowl game, so he's going to be here throughout the spring. You've got 3 guys battling to be 2nd, 3rd, 4th on that depth chart. So another room filled with competition, and there's a very reasonable expectation that we should have solid depth in that quarterback room. I like bringing in, all right, Marcos to create and help with some competition and depth in the quarterback room as well. All right, you look at the, it's interesting. Running back kind of hasn't been talked about a ton. Obviously, Emmitt Smith's the starter. We got Quentin Ives. We got a couple of freshmen coming in. We got some other guys in that room.
Emmett Johnson, by the way.
What'd I say?
Emmitt Smith. That's what Terrell says that all the time.
Ooh, Emmitt Smith. Almost as good as Emmett Johnson.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go. Emmett Johnson. Sorry, misspoke. Emmett Johnson's the clear-cut guy. We haven't even brought in a running back. Not even a visit. We brought in like 30, 40 guys for visits. Probably more at this point. The last time I looked, it was about 35. Not one running back, which surprises me, but it also, not to even just look at one, but it also tells me they really like what they got in Emmett Johnson, which we already knew. It also tells you they like Quentin Ives. This is a guy that Matt Rule's brought up in press conferences for a couple of years, to be honest with you. And then Dana Holgerson brought him up in the pre-bowl press conference in December, about a week or 2 before the bowl game versus Boston College, said he's played great. I get the feeling Rule, Holgerson like Quentin Ives, and they plan on, at least for now, them being our 1-2 punch. My thing is, you've always got to have 3 running backs you trust. So is there another running back in that room that they trust that we're not talking about just yet? Because you got to be able to rotate, at least to a certain degree, to keep guys fresh at the running back position. And then if somebody ever gets banged up, you got to have that 3rd back that can come in and be part of a 2-back. And I'm not saying you have to rotate constantly, but you can't just expect a running back to take every carry of the freaking game. So you need 2 that you trust, and you need a 3rd in case somebody gets banged up, and you still need to be able to rotate a top 2. I don't know who that 3rd is. Maybe there's somebody that they're eyeing later on down the road. Maybe there's somebody in that room that we're not aware of. Or maybe they see it differently, and they got 2 they really like, and they're calling it good. What are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Well, it's fascinating, especially for a staff that 2 years ago lost 2 of their best running backs or 2 of their top running backs on the same day in a game that they were going to win either way. So, I mean, they know that this depth could happen. Depth problems could happen. Does make you think, maybe they really love Jamarian Parker coming in, Mekhi Nelson coming off, kind of sitting out this year. But I think it's interesting to track and note as well that, and Sean Callahan does this, when this conversation gets brought up, is that if you redshirt as a running back at Nebraska, that just generally hasn't translated to great careers. Usually, if if you're going to be a good enough running back, you can help in some way as a true freshman. That doesn't mean write off everybody, but that's just generally the case.
All right. Connor Booth. Who's the other true freshman we're bringing in?
I just said his name, Jamarian Parker.
And is Jameer, is he the guy that we about lost on signing day? Isn't that him?
That might have been. I can't remember. I remember there was somebody that was.
They were like right leading up to the press conference. Rules like, sorry, we're a little bit late. Somebody else was basically trying to get him. I feel like it was him. It may have been somebody else. But my point is they maybe they're expecting one of those two guys to be able to contribute and be that third back. Again, you never know what you're going to get out of a true freshman. But you're right. There's not a lot of tread on the tires as far as longevity of career when it comes to running backs just due to the nature of the position. Everyone's trying to take your head off. So it's hard to do that for a lengthy amount of time. So for me, if you're not on the field in some way, shape, or form as a true freshman, unless you're hurt, it's not the end of the world. But most guys, they're trying to get to, I'm just going to be blunt, they're trying to get the NFL as soon as they can because they know the longevity of a career of a running back is shorter than probably any other position on an entire football team. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see how that plays out. Then we got two special teams guys. I'll throw them in with the offense because really there's only one offensive guy left at this point. We had 9 defensive guys, 5 offensive guys, and 2 specialists. So Jack McAllister, Kevin's younger brother. All right. Thank you. All right. Redshirt junior here. So he's got some years of eligibility left, but he was the starting punter for Washington, if you didn't know this already, for the past 3 years, starting as their punter versus Michigan in the national title game. He's a very good punter. He's going to do a good job. I'm very excited to see what he can do. Maybe the most underrated transfer player in this entire class, Kevin Gallick, the long snapper. All right. He was an FCS All-American as a long snapper. And if you ever thought long snapping was easy, you didn't watch our football team last year. If you ever thought snapping was easy, you didn't watch Alabama 2 years ago. And I can say it now because he's a Pro Bowl center. Cam Jurgens, when he was first learning, showed, hey, talented guy. We're going to be one of the best in the world, but this thing ain't so easy to snap and try to block a 350-pound guy or 300-pound guy right in front of me. Now he's a Pro Bowler. He's doing all right. Maybe a Super Bowl champ at the end of this year. But Kevin being brought in is incredibly important because the order of operations starts with the snap. The snap, the hold, the kick. Especially on field goals, PATs, which we had 6 blocked this year. And then you got punts. A lot of that was due to protection or lack thereof or a breakdown in miscommunication in our punt protection. But that's a big one right there. All right. Let's get to the O-line. Elijah Pritchett. So he was, when he came out of high school, according to 247, the number 1 offensive tackle in the entire country. Now, different recruiting publications will rank guys differently. According to 247, he was number 1. Already talked about a lot of this other stuff, so I'm not going to belabor it. What I will say is his ceiling is through the roof. Dylan Raiola, Elijah Pritchett, Williams and Warray, Dawson McCullough. There's other guys that you can throw in this. The Ja'Cory Barney. I'm not going to try to list every single guy because then you don't list somebody and they get their feelings hurt. My point is, when you think about the guys on this team who have the highest ceiling, if anybody walking around, Pritchett's name's got to be brought up. Has to be. Now, he's also a player with a little bit of a lower floor if you pay attention to his stats from a year ago. He wasn't the least consistent offensive lineman that Alabama had. He was inarguably their least consistent offensive lineman that Alabama had a season ago. So I said it before and I'll say it again. The talent is there. The ability is there. Now, I have been told by folks in the know that it takes a strong personality to coach this dude. Like he's got something to him. And if you can channel it in the right direction, he can be a monster. If you don't, I don't want to say it can cause problems, but it can inhibit him from being anywhere near as good a player as he could possibly be and potentially cause distractions. That's not what we want. It's not what we're rooting for, just keeping it real. So for me, this comes down to coaching. This comes down starting with Corey Campbell in the strength and conditioning room. All right. I think Pritchett had an issue with the Alabama strength coach. I don't anticipate having any issues. By the way, Corey's great. And it comes down to Donovan Raiola. What can he get out of him? Is he the guy that can focus his attention and his natural abilities in the right direction? Is he the coach that can do it? Honestly, we need another offensive lineman, whether it's a tackle, whether it's Pete, the New Mexico State guy. We'll see if we get any news on that today, whether it's an interior offensive lineman. All right, we got Grant Bricks. We've got the redshirt freshman out of Hawaii, who was one of the top players coming out of Hawaii, 330 pounds a day, stepped on campus, 4-star. Another interior offensive lineman. Maybe they can step up and battle for a starting job. If nothing else, they can absolutely add depth along with Justin Evans-Jenkins, Henry Letufsky. But we need another offensive lineman. If we bring in another tackle, maybe Gunner goes to guard, Gunner Gatula. Maybe Gunner battles it out with Pritchett and whoever the other tackle is if we bring one in. Maybe it's a guard that comes in. We can't be done yet with molding this offensive line. And hopefully there's some positive surprises along the way as well. All right. Final grades for the offensive side of the ball. Jake, what would you give? And let's throw the specialists. Let's do special teams first. Shouldn't take long. And then let's go to the offensive side of the ball. What grade would you give our special teams transfer portal players?
Well, I love what the additions that they made. Obviously, Gaelic and McAllister, you get a proven punter to come in here and at least compete with Camden Cook, probably take that job, right? And then they had long snap issues. So, I mean, pretty close to an A+ as far, A+ as far, but, A type of grade because they filled the needs they needed.
I'm just gonna say A. I agree with you. Yeah. All right, go ahead to the offensive side there.
The offensive side, again, I do have concerns a little bit at running back. I feel like you could probably bring in another running back, make you feel better about that position. As you mentioned, I mean, if you get Pete, it's hard to argue. I mean, I'll throw my running back thing aside and just say what a great job, because to get the two type of wide receivers that they did in Hunter and Key is absolutely huge, especially considering what they're losing. But again, there's just a few spots. Tight end, could they maybe add there? So there's a few spots that you think maybe they could still add additions to, but the backup quarterback thing that you hinted on earlier. So I'd go as far as a B+ here.
Jeremiah Jones was the player we almost lost on signing day. All right. So would you say B+?
Yeah.
If you look at just the skill guys, I mean, we're talking B+, A-, just the skill guys. Even without bringing a running back in, without bringing another running back in, there's something that we don't know for them to not even have a visit with anybody. And it's something I got to assume is in the direction of being good. So I'm gonna put some trust in Rule and Holgerson when it comes to why there hasn't even been a visit from a running back. When you just look at the skill position players, I mean, I'm good with giving it an A. But here's the deal. Offense puts butts in the seats. Defense wins games. The trenches wins championships. And we have not been good in the offensive line for a long time. I'm sick and tired of using the word potential. I said that going into last year. I used the word expectations, and we were not consistent. Up and down. The Wisconsin game was phenomenal, but 2 up and down, 2 inconsistent. I'm going to put it at a flat B offensively, because that's how much I weight how important being solid up front in the trenches is. And a B+ didn't even occur to me. It was B or B-, in my opinion. I love our skill guys. I love the depth in the quarterback room. I love the competition this is going to create. I'm going to trust them when it comes to the running back situation. Somebody has got to step up on this O-line. This isn't 7-on-7. This is 11-on-11. Blue collar, in your face, Big Ten, smash mouth tackle football. It starts up front. I'm going to go with a B because I do think we're going to add an offensive lineman before we're done and the season gets here. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully that person can be here for spring ball. Hopefully there's some surprises in that room. All right. We'll see what happens with Prohaska and Corcoran as they come back from multiple injuries now. But for me, I'm going to go with a B, and I feel like that's a fair grade. I feel like it's being kind. A couple things I should mention. There's more offensive linemen out there than this. But outside of Pete, the top one that may be available is Daniel King out of Troy, interior offensive lineman. All right. This is a guy who would be an immediate boost for whatever team he joins. 6'5", 240 pounds. He's visited North Carolina, second team all Sun Belt, 23 and 24. Played over 2,600 snaps. Okay. 1,906 of those were pass blocks. Only allowed 9 sacks out of 1,396 pass blocks, only 9 sacks. Okay. He's played mostly right tackle, right guard, a team captain. All right, and rated the 72nd overall player in the portal. Now, Washington State former offensive lineman Roderick Talavea, 6'5", 321 pounds, played in 12 games last year, played in 13 games. 2 years ago was 12, last year was 13, starting 10. He played left guard, a pass blocking grade of 56.9, a run blocking grade of 50.8. All right, now, if you just listen to that, King is absolutely the better of those two players. But those are a couple of possibilities that are out there.